So Julie Taymor is kind of important. She's the famed director of Frida, Fool's Fire, but more importantly, a bunch of theatre plays like The Lion King on Broadway and many Shakespeare works, including today's topic, Titus Andronicus, or as the film is titled, Titus. So William Shakespeare's play The Lamentable Tragedy of Titus Andronicus, written somewhere between 1588 and 1593, is a play about the fictional Roman general Titus Andronicus, who was actually based on Andronicus I Komnenos, a Byzantine emperor, and not the real historical figure Titus, who was a Roman emperor. It's a tragedy, much like many Shakespeare works. It's the first tragedy he wrote, in fact, and is set during the height of the Roman Empire. However, this movie is a little different. The film has an anachronistic approach to this play, setting it not in the correct period, or even really any known time period. The film takes place in a fictional time, contemporary to the film's release, but also taking influence from ancient Rome and even Mussolini's Italy. It all comes together to create a feeling of a Roman Empire that never fell, one that just evolved with time. It's beautiful how Taymor turned this grounded tragedy into a fantastical epic, and what's most impressive of it all is that it's a feature film directorial debut. The film over the years has had endless comparisons to Gladiator. After all, they were released within a year of each other and do have many narrative similarities. But as noted by Sight and Sound writer John Rathall in his 1999 coverage, the style differences between Ridley Scott and Julie Taymor cannot be more different. And I think a lot of that has to do with this amalgam of errors, but also with the intuition of a stage director and the informed experience of a Shakespeare disciple. The film opens up with this child in a very 50s American home playing with modern action figures and food, looking entirely too spoiled but also innocent. Until there's a bombing and he gets carried down this enormous staircase and into an amphitheatre, instantly letting the audience know that this is not what they think it's going to be. I've always adored Shakespeare adaptations that take the subject matter and recontextualizes them, like 10 Things I Hate About You, Scotland PA, Throne of Blood, and of course, She's the Man. But we've never truly gotten an adaptation of his work that doesn't commit to either adaptational accuracy or complete recontextualization, but having an affinity for both. This scene continues in this Colosseum and we see a classical Roman march, true in formation but complete with motorcycles, and the army aren't just donned in Roman armour, they're covered in a kind of clay, a kind of dirt, and they're meant to resemble the terracotta army. This tidbit is important because the terracotta army's purpose is to protect the emperor in the afterlife, possibly suggesting the fate of our young Lucius or even the general, the titular Titus. Interesting to note, the dialogue in this movie is shot so straight. Everything is so fantastic and creative, but when it comes to Shakespeare's dialogue and an actor's performance of it, Taymor allows the movie to sit still for a moment, lets the frame breathe on the faces of the performers and give this grand and theatrical feeling to an otherwise chaotic and bizarre film. I also love how much of the dialogue is not spoken in the traditional cadence and pacing of a classical Shakespeare production either. I mean, when Anthony Hopkins or Jessica Lange speaks it sounds like it's ringing around the Royal Opera House, but when the material is in the hands of younger performers, they speak the dialogue with a modern attitude and pace. It shakes up the conventions and gives this film another layer of an identity away from the source material while still maintaining its DNA. You'll also come to realise the soundtrack too is wonderfully chaotic. Just like the film's visual style, there's a mix of upbeat jazz and menacing orchestral brass, sinister strings, playful toms, electric guitars, and this all happens subsequently sometimes, and even sometimes all at once. The film is just a big gumbo of ideas and feelings, genres and errors in both visual and audible. But moving to the film's protagonist and subject, Titus. Titus turns down the throne to Rome for seemingly no reason but feeling unfit to rule, which is proven by his very next action of selecting to hand it down to Saturninus, a clearly ill-fitting choice for power, especially next to his younger brother, who is a much calmer and fitting head for the crown. Titus is a proven war general, a proven tactician, but his judgment is weak due to an unwavering loyalty to honour, Rome and convention. He's loyal to Rome to a dispassionate passionate degree. He becomes angry with his sons for allowing his daughter to run away and be married to her true love. He even murders his son for the dishonor, seemingly not even moved by his action. The first act we see him commit in the movie is sacrificing Tamora's eldest son despite her passionate pleas, which comes round to spite him as she then becomes betrothed to the emperor he chose, allowing power for her revenge. There's a karmic nature to his ill decision to allow a tyrant to become emperor, which brings his original sins back to his front door. It's the first step on this story's lesson. Violence begets violence. Revenge is only followed by revenge. In the end, this cycle never brings round justice for any. Sons are murdered for the loyalty of their father, daughters have their chastity taken for the lies of a mother, women are butchered out of misguided hate, men murdered for the sin of inconvenient love. It's a story full of moral apathy, asking the audience to watch carnage take shape in all forms on all people. And in the end, they have to find no resolution that satisfies any reason for it all. All we're left with is Lucius finally finding a distaste for the cycle and deciding to break it. He carries away Aaron's bastard child into the sunset, the product of all of this mess, away from that empty amphitheater from the intro, once again turning into a little boy, possibly hinting towards his newborn innocence, though nobody could ever really be washed of all the blood spilled by him and the ones around him. I think the reason why this movie works so well today is for the reasons given by Julie Taymor herself. She said it's the most relevant of Shakespeare's works in the modern era because we live in the most violent period of human history. She said it seems like a play written for today, it reeks of now, and that's a point of view I completely understand. It's probably why she felt the need to set this film partially in a contemporary setting, because the world is so cruel. But unlike Taymor, I don't believe the world is more violent now than then, whenever you believe then to be. I just think the stage is bigger. Violence begets violence as it always has, and it only does because it did. Human history is full of repetition and cycles. Cruelty is just one of the major themes of our lives, and that's why Titus is not only the most relevant of Shakespeare's tragedies now, but why it will always be. This is a much shorter video than usual because this film isn't as layered, isn't as complex as many of the films I talk about. But it is just as powerful, and I wanted to talk about it because I think this film really got buried in the great year of 1999 when it deserves far more eyes than it has. It is incredibly powerful, it is so bizarre and creative, and I think if you're into Shakespeare or insane movie worlds, or even just really good performances, this is not something you should let pass you by. But that's just me. What do you think? Have you seen Titus? If so, what did you think? If not, will you? And whether it's one that warns of the endless cycle of revenge or not. As always, keep watching movies.